19 past the hour. Joining us now from Capitol Hill is Senator Elizabeth Warren. Good to have you, Senator, on the show this morning. We have Mike Barnicle, Mark Halperin, and Brian Shackman back at the table yet. We're going to be talking about 5 years later after the financial collapse. But first,
we have a partner on.
Your partner,
before.
Senator McCain, was on earlier. He had great things to say about you.
Oh, listen, I'll say some great things about him, too. Can we talk some about Glass Steagall?
Exactly.
I'd love it.
Yeah, so talk about how you and John McCain came together, and we won't talk in shorthand. Explain what you and John McCain want to do regarding Glass Steagall and what the real impact is on that.
Okay, so when you tell me not to start talking shorthand, I'm going to start back in 1790.
Well,
right?
you know what I was actually just talking about? If you could just explain what Glass Steagall is for our viewers, that would be great.
So we had a big boom and bust. Banks used to fail roughly about every 15 years. We hit the Great Depression. We put some real reforms in place, and one of them was Glass Steagall. It separated ordinary, boring banking, your checking account, your savings account, from the kind of crazy stuff that goes on Wall Street, you know, making whatever bets, high risk, high payoff bets. That gave us half a century of economic peace. And during that time, we built America's middle class. This country got stronger and richer and just really did terrifically. Then, starting in the 1980s, they started poking holes in Glass Steagall. Finally repealed it in 1999. And those big financial institutions took the risky part from Wall Street and your savings account and checking account, put them all together. And that's part of what helped them get bigger, more concentrated, and helped lead to the crash. What John McCain and I, along with Maria Cantwell and Angus King, are proposing is, let's take them apart again. We need a 21st century Glass Steagall Act. Bottom line for it is, banking should be boring. You want to do wild and crazy things, go do it on Wall Street.
Oh, okay. Well, we can go there to Wall Street 5 years later. Give us a sense of some of the positive gains we've made and where we've just simply actually gotten worse.
Now, well, you know, we probably should start every conversation with, we didn't end up in the Second Great Depression.
That's true.
We were right on the edge, right on the cliff, and a lot of people were worried we were going straight over. That's the good news. The bad news is that crisis cost us $14 trillion. That's with a T. That's about $120,000 for every family in America. Think about that. People lost their pensions, people lost their homes, people lost their jobs, and the real economy has still not fully recovered. We put new reforms in place. Dodd-Frank, they're great reforms. They really are. They help a lot. But they don't get the whole job done. So where we are now is, again, back to those big financial institutions. The four biggest financial institutions in the country are now 30% bigger than they were 5 years ago.
It's unbelievable.
Too much content. It is unbelievable, Mike. We have got to deal with too big to fail. And here's the thing. It still puts the whole system at risk. And you'll love this part. There are studies now showing that because they are believed to be too big to fail, they get a better deal when they go borrow money in the marketplace, which means they're getting a subsidy of about $83 billion a year.
Man.
Because effectively they got a free insurance policy paid for by you and me and all the taxpayers.
We have Brian Shackman here. Brian.
Yeah, I have 100 questions, and I don't have time for them all, so I'll ask one. And something we've talked about a lot in the last week, Senator Warren, is access to credit for the people that truly need it and who can truly pay it back. And so how do we, in realistic way, policy-wise, get the middle class and get small business able to access credit?
Boy, you have hit the nail on the head on this one. Let me talk about small business credit for a minute, because it is so powerfully important to job creation, to growing these small businesses. One of the things we're seeing right now is that in the banking industry, you're seeing more concentration in the banking industry, and that the largest financial institutions have pulled back pretty dramatically on small business lending. That means it's left to the community banks, to the credit unions, to the smaller financial institutions. The problem is that they have gotten squeezed. They've gotten squeezed because they have to pay more for capital than the too big to fail banks. They've gotten squeezed because they get hit hard by the regulations. They've been gobbled up by some of the larger financial institutions. And the fallout from that is that regular small businesses have a hard time getting access to credit, and I think that's a real problem. And it's the reminder on the banking system. The pieces are all related to each other. The consequences of having 4 large financial institutions that are 30% bigger than they were 5 years ago is not only about risk to the system. Your question really identifies it's also about a drag on small business lending, and that's a real problem.
It is a real problem. We've got Mark Halperin with us, fresh off of his debut on the I Am Freddie Mercury Broadway show. Well, off Broadway, but anyway.
Senator, good morning. What's your sense of why Larry Summers' potential nomination to be head of the Fed is not going forward? And what do you think the moral is for the president as he looks for a Fed chair?
Well, I don't think it's any secret that Larry was not my first choice. Was
he your 8th choice?
One way of putting
it. Was he your 10th choice?
He's a brilliant economist who has made many terrific contributions to the field of economics. I have no doubt that he's going to continue to do that in the future. I think that the president is working through a difficult decision. It's a reminder of the importance of the Federal Reserve Chair. You know, we talk a lot about monetary policy, and we should. That is, putting enough money out there to try to keep the economy going forward, keeping interest rates low. But the rest of this conversation is about regulatory policy as well. And the Federal Reserve Chair plays a very important part in that as well. And so I think the president's taken his time. He's thinking through this, and we're having a good and thoughtful discussion, which is a good thing to have in Washington.
Mike.
Senator, I believed Larry Summers called you within the past few weeks to talk to you about his pending nomination, now withdrawn. Did that call occur? Did you speak? And what is the root of your opposition to Larry Summers?
So, of course, we've spoken and recently and had a good and thoughtful conversation. You know, Janet Yellen is going to, I hope, will make a terrific Federal Reserve Chair. I hope she's nominated. She has great experience. She has great judgment. I think she would make a terrific Federal Reserve Chair, and the president will make his decision.
But the root of your opposition. But the root of your opposition to Larry Summers, what is it?
As I've said before, I think we have different worldviews about the economy and about regulation. And but right now, the president is going to make, I hope, a good decision on the Federal Reserve Chair. We're all here to help him in any way we can.
Senator Elizabeth Warren, thank you so much. It is always great to have you on the show.
It's good to be here.
Come back. Coming up.